Good morning, sir. Forever. Weather. Good morning. I am fat. I am fat. Panama. Baby. 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 You'll always be together. Sleeping every weather. January to December. No retreat, no surrender. I saw that. TT line. TT line. TT line. TT line. Okay, that was Gaze Baba, and that song is titled TT Line. I mean, you can check it out on YouTube. Amazing, amazing song by Gaze Baba. Gaze is one of my favorite Nigerian artists, and it's some guy who sings ethical, lyrically clean songs and very, very message driven, and I love that. So, welcome to Pfthinks episode 103. Okay, so for 103 days, 113, sorry, episode 113, not 103. For 113 days, we've been here live every day, sharing on different issues. Okay, thank you for all of you joining me live from Praise for International Studio, Lagos, Nigeria. For those of you joining from all over the world, North American people, I can see you. My people from United Arab Emirates, thank you. Those from India, I want to say thank you so much. And those of you from the UK, not to talk of my people from Nigeria and other African countries, thank you. For those of you who are still going to see this by the end, maybe when you wake up or something like that. Thank you so much for joining me. Yesterday, we started looking at effective communication in marriage. And, I'm so blown away by your feedback and how what we shared yesterday has been really, really, really helpful, because if we can master communication, then we can master relationship. Now, imagine, going to meet someone, or you can't be sure of what a person is going to say to you. Imagine putting up with someone in a room who talks you down all the time, or imagine putting up with someone who every slightest provocation they accuse you and remind you of the mistakes you have made. Nobody wants to be with that person, and that's how vital communication is. So when people say I must speak my mind, now the question is, what is the goal? Is the goal to vent? If the goal is to vent, now what if you vent at the person and the person never recovers? People have released a piece of their minds in times past, and the audience or the person they spoke to is gonna commit suicide. Is your goal to kill, or your goal is to make alive? If you are a master at communication, trust me, you will be very effective with people consistently. It's not about the opening of mouth. It's about creating an experience, or creating an experience for people that in a way that they becomes unforgettable. Now, I'm sure you've had unforgettable moments in your life, which is why communication is not just verbal, it could be non-verbal. As a matter of fact, I said a couple that whenever you see a couple who has a sexual problem in their marriage, maybe sexual dissatisfaction, it's oftentimes a communication problem because if you're married or if you've had memorable sex before, you realize that you always want to make it, bring it back and bring it back and bring it back. The same way, if you have had such an awful sex, you don't even want to remember it, right? So there are things that people do that they never forget, and there are things they do that they forget. The difference is communication. There are people you've met in your life that made you feel very good. That every time you hear their name, you have this nostalgic feeling, and you feel like being with them again, right? Whether right or wrong, we do not know, but people have made an impression on you that it's unforgettable. It's a memorable experience. And that is what must be the goal of communication at all times. Today, I'm going to narrow down on the three pillars of effective communication in marriage because I believe this series will resolve a whole lot of issues for many of us. Now, there is a course that I have called User's Manual. A lot of us do not understand our User's Manual. I will talk about that in this series, but you see, the goal of User's Manual is to help you articulate who you truly are, how you want to be talked to, how you talk to people, who you truly are, including your strengths, your weaknesses, your features, your attributes, the most frequently asked questions about you, and what people can misconstrue about you. Now, a lot of people don't have that. So, when you come into a relationship, your partner does not have the luxury of knowing exactly what you want. So, they are groping, trying to figure you out. But like I have taught in times past, you cannot go wrong with the four critical rules of effective relationship. Rule number one is the rule of acceptance. To say you must learn to accept people without raising questions or without casting aspersions as their person or without generalizing them. So you need to rise above the stereotyping of all Yorubas are, all Igbos are, all blacks are, all whites are, right? Because you need to meet people, and give them a benefit of the doubt. Number two is the principle of respect, which says whatever you respect, you will attract. The third is the principle of understanding, which says you need to stoop to conquer, you need to seek to understand before being understood. And the last one is the principle of love, which is a decision that is built on the commitment to add value to someone else for the rest of your life without expecting a thank you. Now, I love this quote. It's an anonymous quote I found online, which says, without communication, there is no relationship. And without respect, there is no love. And without trust, there is no reason to continue. That if communication is broken down, there can be relationship. If there is no respect, there can't be love. And without trust, there's no reason to continue. So when you hear people who are in a relationship and they never communicate, then you know that they are on their way out of each other's life, which is why communication is something you need to master. I mentioned yesterday that we were taught to talk, we were not taught to communicate. Now imagine what you're saying, making some sounds in your mouth. I'll imagine the sounds that you have heard that makes you smile, that makes you shed tears of joy. Now that is communication. But there are also words and sounds that annoy you. There are voices that when you hear a semblance of that voice, it pisses you off. There are people that once you see them, you want to move quickly away from them. But there are people that you want to warm up to, you want to stay with. There are people you can listen to every day of your life, every minute, every second. And there are people that the moment you hear the tonality of their voice, because they always sound insulting, you just want to move away. What is the difference? Effective communication. Now, Aristotle made, created what we call the three pillars of persuasive communication, right? And every speaker knows this. Now, is the concept of ethos, pathos, and logos, right? It was created by Aristotle in ancient Greece many years ago. Now, if you check what he called ethos, ethos is the pursuit of convincing your audience of your credibility and character. So a lot of people do not know how the credibility and character can tie into their effective communication. Imagine they have slapped a label of corrupt person on you and you're a salesperson. There is no amount of what you say that will convince people. Why? Because they're observing you from a suspicious point of view. Now, when you don't have credibility and character, then it becomes very difficult for your audience to receive from you. People must accept you before they accept what you say. And that's why how you come across, how you appear. I mean, imagine you're going for an interview and you have decided to wear your jeans and your bedroom slippers. And in your own view, well, they should know that I'm competent. No, right? They would first look at you first before they place you or they even listen to you. People have lost amazing jobs because of the way they dress. When people dress anyhow, right? They say nobody's looking at me. Excuse me. That's one of the most critical mistakes people make. People are looking at you because you are selling all the time. My mentor, I had him say years ago that you must never step out of your house in your bedroom slippers, even if you want to buy things across the road, because you might just meet a customer. And when they look at you from head to toe, they can actually place you. Now, whether that is right or wrong is a symposium discussion. But when it comes to winning with people, they need to accept your person before they accept you. Now, have you met a salesperson? Someone was coming to sell insurance to me the other day, and she wanted me to put 5 million in life insurance or something like that. And I asked a question: do you have 5 million personally in life insurance policy? And she looked at me and she said, I don't have to have it. I said, case closed. This matter is over. You can leave my office right now. Why? Because she has not passed the test of credibility. How many times have you seen people say to you, I can make you make $10 million or something, and they don't even look any inch of 2 naira, $2 or something like that? Now you need to understand that even in marriage, you must convince your partner of your credibility and your character. They must first accept you before what you say. So, a lot of people to do that, they do a lot of image management because the moment people don't trust you anymore, they will never buy whatever you're saying. Now, in communication in marriage, you are actually selling, you are creating an experience, you are selling effect, feeling, right? So, that was ethos according to Aristotle. Then you have what they call the pathos. The pathos is appealing to the feelings of your audience through the use of meaningful and simple language. Now, I'm sure you've had some people use bombastic language. Someone comes, and he wants to campaign or he wants to, and is using bombastic and big, high sounding grammar that people cannot understand to try to reach out to them. Trust me, they will just be yelling you, who. But at the end of the day, you have said nothing. So you walk into a place and you say the ontological species of an identical plumage conglomerate to the nearest degree of proximity. Excuse me, what have you said? You have said nothing, right? Maybe you have tongue twisted or you have rapped. Nobody can take any action based on what you have said. And the goal of communication is to create an experience that can help people move from one place to the other. So pathos is the use of meaningful and simple language to appeal to feelings. It also talks about emotional tonality, that you must know when to raise your voice, you must know when to lower your voice, you must know when to move into crescendo, you must know how to appeal. I mean, there's a man who does that very well, and that is a man called TD Jakes, right? He does that very well. Amazing guy, amazing communicator. That when he talks, it can move you into tears, right? It was said about Adolf Hitler that he was a master communicator. If you listen very well to Obama, when Obama was contesting for the first time in office, I mean, I'm not an American, I'm a Nigerian, but every time I listen to him, I cried. The same way when you listen to Martin Luther King Jr., he has passed the test of pathos because they have mastered how to appeal to the feelings of the audience through the use of meaningful and simple language, emotional tonality, stories, and metaphors that is relatable. So Obama will go into your history. He will talk to you about the history of America, the greatness of America, when it would refer to Martin Luther King Jr., right? The same way, when you're talking to your spouse, you do not take them for granted. I think what happens over time is we take our spouses for granted and say they will understand. So it's not a big deal. No, you need to treat them as your internal customers, especially when you're trying to get something from them, right? A lot of us, we bring familiarity, we bring context. You're trying to get something from your customer, but I mean, from your partner, but you have a sense of entitlement to say that you understand. It should be no, you are taking them for granted. Now, emotional tonality is very key in pathos and stories and metaphors because it makes it more believable and more relatable, which is why if people can resist anything, they cannot resist stories because stories bypass conscious resistance. Now, the last one that Aristotle talks about is the logos, which is the quest to appeal to logic and reason. So you can see, you need to convince people they must accept your person, which is ethos, before they accept what you say. Pathos is you need to appeal to the feeling, to their feelings, right? But logos is to appeal to their logic and reasoning because at the end of the day, decisions are taken, maybe through the frontal cortex, which is the logical point part of your brain. Now, in appealing to the logic and reason, you deploy data, analytics, testimonials, recorded evidence, and relatable stories to drive home what you want to say. Now you can see from these three angles that communication is not something that you just comes to you naturally. It's something you need to practice and practice and practice. So for every time you open your mouth to speak, how do I use ethos, pathos, and logos? But for the purpose of our discussion, I have broken the pillars of communication down into three, and I've called them the trust, the perception, and the connection. Now, I'm going to stay a lot more in the perception because I want you to see how your personality, your temperament can affect your communication and how it can affect other people. That when you take that test or that assessment that a lot of people take, we use the brand of car model to assess people. You need to know who you are, your weaknesses, and what you need to master. That in marital communication or relational communication, number one key is trust. That's the number one pillar. Now, if people have placed you in a cocoon to say that your words are not trusted or your person is not trusted, they will always think that you're trying to manipulate them. I used to have that challenge with some of my people. They'll just say that, oh, prayer, you're just trying to convince us. And I said, no, can you listen? So what I do is I do active listening from time to time, right? That when I'm listening to you, I'm listening for the first time again. But a lot of people do not have the skill, right? And not everyone can go to that level yet where they are listening to you every time for the first time. There is what your audience is saying, there is what they are not saying, right? And for you to understand and clarify, you cannot assume what they're saying, which is why you need to ask, is this what you mean? Can I understand you better? Can you repeat that again? Can I repeat this to you? These are questions that can help you attain clarity when your spouse is talking to you. And the truth is, you cannot actively listening when you are fiddling with your phone or when you are distracted, which is why usually I recommend that when you want to talk to your spouse, it's better to ask, please, can I take 10 minutes of your time? If they say yes, then you know they're going to give you that 10 minutes. But if you have a reputation of just saying things forever, then it becomes a problem for them because they know it's going to become another coaching or the training session. Many of us who do coaching, who do training, who do speaking, we could be guilty of this, right? So trust is key. Can your spouse trust you? Have you breached trust in times past? The moment you have done that, every other thing you say will be subject to scrutiny. Now, so trust is number one. Number two is perception. Now, when it comes to perception, who is a husband and a wife or your child? Now, if your definition is subjective, it will show up in the way you treat them. Now, if you see your partner as your mate, as your friend, the way you're going to communicate with them is not going to be accusatory, it's going to be fact finding because you know, even in their error, it must be based on love. You know, they cannot take you for granted. My mentor does someone did something, a mentor did something to me years ago that I didn't like, and it brought me to tears. But another mentor came and he said, Praise, when you don't understand what this person is doing, try to understand what they couldn't have been trying to do. And you see, that liberated me. And I need you to repeat that to yourself quietly. When you don't understand what your spouse is trying to do, try to understand what they couldn't have been trying to do. If the relationship is a friendship relationship, when you do not understand what your friend is trying to do, try to understand what they couldn't have been trying to do. So he asked me, is this person trying to pull you down? The answer is no. I could beat my chest that they're not trying to pull me down. Is this person trying to disgrace you? No, that's not it. Is this person trying to expose you? No, I could beat my chest. That's not what they're trying to say to do. Is this person trying to, ridicule you or subject you to ignore? No, that's not what they're trying to say to do. Now, when you understand what people are not trying to do, it helps you situate what they could have been trying to do. Now, when you ask that question, or when you create that maxim in your heart that when you don't understand what this person is trying to do, try to understand what they couldn't have been trying to do. When you understand what they couldn't have been trying to do, then what they're trying to do comes to the fore. So, who is your husband or your wife? If your definition of a wife is someone who is a subordinate, it would show in the way you talk to them. If your definition of a husband is just one of those persons out there, I can talk to him anyhow, baby, because then it would show in the way you talk. Mutual respect is very key. And we need to understand that even within the ambit of marriage, we need to respect people's personal space, right? And not breach it or break it because we're married. Now, it's very important for you to have a clear definition of who your child is. If you just see your child as someone is under me, right, you're going to subjugate, punish, you're going to domesticate them. But if you see a child as a royalty, as a future leader, it's going to totally change the way you talk to him, the way you discipline him, the way you instruct him, and even in your negotiation, right? That the true test of our respect for people is found when we are dealing with people who are vulnerable, who cannot give anything back to us. If we can still respect, then we actually have respect. Now, number two, there in perception, that if the way I see you is a reflection of how I talk to you, when you see the way people talk down on people, is how they see that person, right? I mentioned that yesterday. If you meet the head of state who can give you the greatest needs in your life, what are you going to do? The way you're going to talk to them is you are going to comport yourself, put up your best behavior, so you are acting. Why don't you act perpetually? My mother will always say to me, there is nothing to lose for treating people right, but there is a lot to lose for treating them anyhow. You need to repeat that again. There is nothing to lose for treating people right, but there's a lot to lose for treating them anyhow. So, what is your perceptual code for your spouse? What is his or a perceptual code? Which means, how do you see them? When you see your spouse, I mean, it's amazing that someone says, my husband is my royalty, is my king. But the way you talk to your husband, the way you talk to your king, you talk anyhow. It's you are being hypocritical and you're not being real. If you have said the perceptual code is this person is my king, then you're going to honor them at all times. If you say this person is my queen, you're going to honor them at all times, and you're not going to talk down on them or accuse them unnecessarily when you don't have the data. I think the biggest challenge many of us have is the error of assumption. Assumption has been defined as the lowest level of knowledge, that when you are not sure, it's better to err on the side of caution by seeking to understand instead of just taking a position. So your spouse has done something you don't understand, but you have taken a position that they're taking you for granted. Meanwhile, that's not the case. You need to give people a benefit of the doubt. I mean, it was Judge Benesha that says the only man that behaves sensibly is my tailor. Was it Judge Benesha? Or he was I mean, someone made a statement, right? I can't remember quite, I can't quote accurately right now, so pardon me. He says the only man that behaves sensibly is my tailor. He said it takes my measurement anew every time. He said the others go with the assumption of me and they get into destruction. That you need to always give people a benefit of doubt at every point in time. What is your perceptual code? How do you see your child? If you see your child as a royalty, it would show in the way you communicate with them. If you see your spouse as the most important person in your life, it will show in the way you relate with them, in the way you talk to them. So when you see someone who says, I don't know how to talk, but people should know me, people cannot accept your bad behavior. People say, but I don't know how to talk. Excuse me, you will lose out in the critical relationships in your life because what you are creating is war. When you say, I don't know how to talk, what you are saying is that I'm an agent of confusion, I'm an agent of war. That's what you're saying, that I've been sent to create war. Nobody wants to sit with someone who's consistently creating conflict with the words of his or her mouth. Nothing is as demoralizing as meeting a beautiful or well packaged person whose communication is off, right? Properly dressed but doesn't know how to talk. People will move away from you no matter who you are, even if you are feeding them. So, what is the perceptual code you have created for your spouse? How do you want to see them, or how do you see them? Now, it will show in the choice of words and the tonality you use. Number three, what is their personality trait? You need to know that not everyone can be talked to anyhow. To communicate with people, you need to dimension and break down their personality type. For example, when you are dealing with an intimidating Omar, right? Superior argument, superior perspective is what wins with them. For a creative, convertible, relational communication, you need to rent a space in their head, hold them by the hand, hold them close, hug them, right? And use low tones to speak to them, right? If you can speak straight into their heart and create a feeling of emotion, trust me, you will get through to them. But for them also, you cannot be judgmental. You need to be fact finding and create a non-judgmental environment. If you're dealing with a dependable truck, now imagine a truck slow and steady. If you shout on the truck, it's already introverted. You are going to totally kill them, right? And that's not what you want. So you need to come to their level and speak to them when they have calmed down, right? And if you're talking to a systematic forward, you need to use data. Now, so what is their personality trait? It governs how you speak, which is why you cannot generalize communication. You need to spend some minutes, maybe 3 minutes, to study your audience. We call it audience analysis. The same way you need to analyze your spouse. That is why I always insist that couples take what we call the user's manual. Now, it's the magic of connection is the user's manual model, with help couples to take that. I mean, it's every individual that actually should actually take that course, right? Because when you take it, it helps you create a 6-page document that, or 3-page document in some cases, that gives you a summary of your life, how you want to be treated, how people should treat you, what people can misunderstand about you. All of us need that. Now, how do you see them is very key. So perception is key in communication. The last one there is connection. That's the last side of the triangle. Now, when it comes to connection, what do they mean to you, and how do we vibrate at the same frequency? We say that your vibe determines your tribe. That if you don't vibrate at the same level as your partner, you will totally disconnect from them. Now, this is very, very key, and we need to understand it. Poor. So the question this morning is, how do you see people and how do you connect with them? Because our people perception determines our service preparation. The way you see someone. So if I say the president of America or the president of Nigeria is coming to visit your house, are you going to leave your house the way it is right now? The answer is no. Is your kitchen going to be the way it is right now? The answer is no. Is your dining table going to be the way it is? The answer is no. Is your the arrangement of your house going to be the way it is? The answer is no. So why do you need to wait for the president to come before you need to put up the best form of experience in your environment, or the magical experience in your environment? So you see that we practice hypocritical orderliness, right? Simply because we take for granted the fact that, oh, this person has been with me, so we use any plate for our spouses or with our children because we do not think that they are the president. So you see, our mothers, they installed low self-esteem in us in way back because they made us use plastic plates to eat because they are afraid that we're going to break the ceramic one, right? And what did they do? They kept those ones in a cupboard and they say it's for a visitor, right? The visitor never came till they died, right? And they passed the place to us, and some of us are still not using them now. So what we're communicating to our children is that some people are more important than them, and that's why many of us came up with low self-esteem. So your people perception, the way you see people, will determine your service preparation, how you prepare whatever you're preparing for them. Number two, so if you see your spouse as the most important person, you prepare what you want to say in a way that it doesn't affect their emotions negatively or it doesn't hurt them. Number two, our people perception determines our people reception. Now, the way you perceive people determines how you receive them. Now, if you see a guy dressed like Boko Haram, you realize that you become immediately hostile and agitated because his dressing has already communicated maybe he's going to bomb you. So our perception must determine our people, will determine our people reception. Our people perception, number three, determines people connection, how we connect with people. If you see your spouse as the most important person in your life, it will show up in our connection, the way we connect with them, the way we talk to them, the way we treat them. Now, our people perception will determine our service delivery, how we now deliver what we want to deliver. We usually say to people that when it comes to communication, the first thing you need to do is not to speak, is to first pause, right? To pause to know, is this the right time? Is this person in the right frame of mind, or is the right mood to say what I want to say? And when it's not the right time, the next P is to postpone. Don't insist, I must say it anyhow, I must say it now. No, there is nothing like saying it now. You postpone when the person is not ready. Then, when the person is ready, you present. That's the next P. You present. Then, when you have presented, then you playfully persist, right? You playfully persist, right? So don't just go there and be hounding it. I said I want it now. No, give them time. So our people perception determines our service delivery. Then it also determines our people retainership, how we retain them. The question I will ask this morning is: do you want to retain people or you want to retrain them? Now, because a lot of us are trying to retrain our spouses using our words, thinking what is what corrects people. No, for you to correct people, you need to understand that you change people on their terms, not on your terms. Is the platinum rule that says treat people the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated, which is why the user's manual and the magic of connection is very critical because it helps you understand how your spouse wants to be treated. There's a way they want to be corrected. Now, it's not just the opening of mouth to say, but you did this thing next thing. No, there is a way your spouse wants to be corrected, which is totally different from other people. The question I always ask couples to ask is, how would you want me to correct you? And when you understand how your spouse wants to be corrected, you need to practice it, practice it till you master it. It will be foolhardy for someone to say to you, this is the way I want to be corrected, or this is the way I love to be spoken to, or this is the way to get through to me, and you still insist on your own way. A lot of people, their unwillingness to shift is why they have breakdown in communication with their spouse. You treat people on their own terms or not on your own terms. You treat people the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated. So, for example, I might say love to me is slapping people. And if I slap you, love to you may not be slapping you. So you need to understand that, because if you don't understand that, you will fail consistently with people. So here are 6 simple relationship questions or communication questions that can help you communicate better with your spouse. Number 1, who am I creating an experience for? Because, like I said, your words, the goal of your words is creation, right? And when it's creation, it's creating an experience for the beneficiary of your word. That's why the Bible says, let your speech be seasoned with salt, that it may minister grace to the person that hears you. Let your speech be seasoned with salt, which means you need to masterfully deliver what comes out of your mouth that the recipient wants to stay glued to you. Now, in little verse, what comes out of our mouth demeans our partner. And so you say they don't want to stay with you, they are not talking to you. Why should they confide in you? when you are judgmental in your approach and in your way disposition to life. When you place yourself as the Lord Almighty, who is the perfect epitome of perfection, why should they come and confide in you? Because your perfectionism reminds them of their own imperfection, right? And what I say to people is that, you see, it is an anomaly to expect perfect behavior from an imperfect person. So when you are judgmental and you sit on your high horses, there is no way they're going to come into your world, because people, even at their lowest ebb, they are looking for someone to lift their spirit, not someone to subject them to scrutiny in a law court. Which is why we say, when your spouse is messed up, they need a mother or a nurse. And when they're doing well, they need a cheerleader. So who am I creating the experience for? Right? Is the person the most important person in my life, or it's just one of those people? If it's just one of those people, you're going to communicate anyhow. But if you can define who you are creating an experience for, to say, this is my king, this is my queen, then this is my royalty, your child, then how you talk is going to totally change, because you will now pause to put up your best communication clue, and you will also expand your registers so that you find the right words for the right occasion. Number two question: what experience do they require? Which is audience analysis, to say, I need to better understand my spouse. You need to know the experience they require. What I say to people is that, you see, it's like going to the restaurant and you're sitting and you want to eat. The waiter is supposed to come and take your order to find out what you want based on the available menu. But what people do is they just serve anything anyhow, and they expect you to eat. So you want rice, the person that served you pounded yam, and they expect you to manage it. No, I want rice. So which is why you need to understand the experience your spouse require every time you have to communicate with them. That's why when you're angry, it's better to take a walk, or to say, you know what, can we come back to this? I hope you don't mind, because I'm not sure I'm in the mood to continue this. Please just pardon me, and you can come back to it later, than to go on and on and on to try to argue a case to win, right? Especially when you don't have the full data. Number three question: what is the ultimate goal of the experience I want to create through communication? Do I want to retain, or I want to discard? Now, when you subject communication of many people to this question, what they are communicating is to discard, not to retain. Because if you want to retain someone, now imagine the first love in your life. Imagine the love letters you receive from them. How did it make you feel? Imagine someone you love so much sitting with you, or a lady you want to date or you want to marry, or a guy you want to marry sitting with you. How would you expect them to speak? Would you think so? Someone that wants to marry you, have not said yes, the person comes and say, you are stupid. I've been telling you, you are a bad person. That's how you behave. They begin to accuse you. Trust me, no matter how well they do, you don't want to, because you know this person is abusive. You see, there is no abuse, because everybody talks about gender-based violence. There is no gender-based violence that is as lethal as emotional abuse. Unfortunately, there is no way to articulate that or present it as evidence in court in many cases. And a lot of men and women suffer that a lot. Emotional abuse, where people accuse you and they destroy your esteem, right? So you need to answer the question: what is the ultimate goal? Every word from your mouth is an experience. I need you to repeat that. Every word that comes out of my mouth is an experience. What experience is it? Is it an experience of war, or an experience of bliss? Is it an experience of atmosphere of bliss? A serenity experience, or it's a warfare experience that demeans people? Is it a chaotic experience or a serene experience? Is it an heavenly experience or a hellish experience? The words from many people's mouth is hellish, which is why I will need you to do a task today. Identify 10 people in your life and ask them to feed you back honestly on your communication style. Ask them, when I talk, do I give a hellish experience, or do I give an heavenly experience the way I talk? Let them be honest with you. If you get less than 6 heavenly experience, you need to, as a matter of urgency, work on your communication, because you can never tell how many doors you have closed into your life. And that's why the real work may be your personal self-worth, or personal perception of yourself, because you cannot treat people better than the way you treat yourself. If there is hell within you, there is chaos within you, there is low self-esteem, insecurity, regret that you have eaten, you will try to talk people down, and that's what will proceed out of your mouth. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Your words reveals your internal state, right? So maybe your spouse is become all you ever want to be, and you have not become that. Instead of you to sit down and say, how can you mentor me, or how can you help me to become this, right? Their greatness reminds you of your smallness, and because you are their spouse, you think it's an entitlement mentality for them to help you, and you just want to bully them into doing things for you. You need to ask, do I want to retain, or do I want to discard? What is the ultimate goal of this communication experience? And please do that task. Find 10 people in your life and let them feed you back. It will do you a lot of good. Next question, which is number 4. What is their platinum code for comprehension? What is their platinum code for comprehension? So platinum rule says treat people the way they want to be treated. I think I will do some series, maybe within this series or another series, on the platinum rule and the breaking down of the 4 personality types, and how you can communicate with each and every one of them, right? So that you know where your spouse is, and you know the way they want to be talked to. Is very, very key for you to understand their platinum code for comprehension. So the way people learn to receive is not the way others love to receive. And you need to understand that. The next one, which is number 5, what is the best style for effectively delivering the experience? Right? There are people who want a 3-course meal. There are people who want breakfast in bed. What is the best style of effectively delivering the experience? When you see your spouse as the most important person, how you deliver the experience is going to be different. You are going to pack, especially when the person has not said yes to you, you are going to put up your best, and that's what you need to do when you want to communicate at all times. That I'm going to give my best today. I'm going to give this my all. Let me shock you. Every time I have had to prepare for my 3 a.m. session in the last 113 days, I give it my all. You would almost think I'm going to make a presentation to the United Nations General Assembly, right? I put in my all. I will not deliver less. So I do an average of 35, 40 minutes every day, right? And whether they pay me or they don't pay me, I give my best, because everything I put out there is a representation of me. Do you understand? The same way you want to present something to your spouse, think it through and find the best way to present it. I usually recommend the sandwich model to say, even if you want to correct them, use the PCP: praise, correct, and praise. To say, find something to admire in them and acknowledge it first. Then, when you want to even correct, suggest it and give them room to assimilate or to even reject it. So I can say, sweetheart, please, I love you. You look so good. Like the barber I first married. I was just thinking, where you're sitting, it doesn't look good for my king and my royalty. I think this chair will be better, right? So I would really love it if you can just move from there to here. But you see, if you still feel comfortable there, it's okay as well by me, right? But I just think I prefer this place. You have suggested, but you see, I love you because you are the best. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to rise. You have actually commanded them, but this time around, you have commanded by appealing to the king and the royalty in them, and trust me, they will move. Than to say, why are you always sitting here? Why? Which is what many of us say. We accuse and we set ourselves as judges over our spouse. Nobody wants to be cross-examined as an accused person. You have even judged them before hearing them. At least even people cross-examine, and you don't cross-examine, you just take a position. Why are you sitting there? Get up, Jerry, and come and sit in a better place. No. What you call a better place may not look like a better place to them. So, what is the best style of effectively delivering the experience? Remember, your communication is an experience you are delivering. Are you delivering heaven or hell? And number 6, what is the feedback system to track your progress? What is the feedback system to track your progress? Can you ask your spouse or the people close to you today and ask them, what is my communication like? Ask your children, yeah, right, that if my communication, the way I talk to you, if it will represent heaven or hell, which one does it represent? If they tell you hell, please do something as a matter of urgency, starting from your esteem, your personal esteem. List the pain you feel. The regrets you feel, list them on the sheet of paper and look for someone to work with you, because you will consistently output L. And when you consistently output L, people will move away from you. A lot of marriages are broken down simply because someone is giving L, and the person is saying, I don't like the way you talk to me. Say, well, and you don't even know how to say, I am sorry. And that's another, deal breaker in a lot of marriages. When you're married to someone who cannot say they are sorry. See, the golden rule in marriage is not to even insist on your right, is to do what is right. I am afraid of a person who cannot say I am sorry, right? Because with I am sorry, you stand a chance. But some people, they would rather die than say I'm sorry. It means it's low self-esteem, actually. It looks like superiority complex, because what they are putting is I am perfect. I cannot say, and why should I say? They are too big to say I'm sorry. So when they are too big to say I'm sorry, then they are too small to keep a marriage or to keep a successful relationship, which is why consistently you realize that when they have needs, there is nobody they can call on. When they want to do something, they have nobody in their life they can call on, because the people in their cycle are, John says, who praise them in their mediocrity. So they have not expanded their territory because they have low threshold for conflict. And meanwhile, they can talk people down, but they hate it when you correct them, and they can't say, I'm sorry. If you fall into the category I have described, you need to change your life almost immediately and look for someone to work with you. So you need to ask these questions consistently. I love what Tony Robbins said, and I'll end this session with that. Tomorrow we'll continue. He said, to effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world, and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. I'll take that again. He said, to effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world, and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. The world does not revolve around you. You are not the only one in the universe. There are other people, and you want to understand their model of the world. You don't always have to accept it, but when it comes to reaching out to them, you need to step into their world, deploy their rules of engagement to win. If you're a Nigerian and you travel to the UK, you cannot drive the way you drive in Nigeria and the UK. You need to abide by the rules in the UK. And that is the way to trade. That you need to find people's rules of engagement and deploy it consistently to create an experience that brings out the best in them. Every time you communicate with people and it doesn't bring out the best in them, you have failed in communication and you have given hellish experience. So you need to ask yourself today, do I want to represent heaven or do I want to represent hell? If your speech and your words consistently undermine people, put them down, and they have no experience of when you praise them for doing what is good, right? Or when your praises is less than your criticism, you will make them lose confidence, especially if they are your spouse. So you need to ask yourself, every time your speech creates war, makes people turn away from you, you are actually representing hell, not heaven. The question is, what do you want to represent? If you want to represent heaven, then your speech will be seasoned with salt. You will plan it, prepare it, and it will minister grace to those that hear you. So every time you have a communication with people, start practicing it today with your children. Let them rate you 0 to 10, right? To say, on the level of excellent communication, how would you rate me? If by the time you get failure, you will keep working out of it. And if you work out of it, let me tell you, nothing trumps a master communicator whose speech creates grace, creates pleasure, create pleasantness for people. Remember, your words create, and it can either create heaven or hell. Which one does your word create for people? I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, keep loving, keep living, and remember, our world is in crisis because of ineffective communication. And for us to put the world together, it must be by the way we talk to each other. If we respect people and we communicate their greatness, consistently showing them what they are doing well, right? And undermining, exaggerating their good, undermining their weaknesses, and giving them a benefit of the doubt. Trust me, you will have a lot of people warm up to you. Everyone wants to be with you. Why? Because your words lift them, it doesn't pull them down. Thank you so much for joining me today. Go ahead and win with your communication today. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Bye bye.